Today, we're pleased to host the premiere of the Columbus Green Community Plan, a blueprint for our region to become a global leader in sustainability and environmental best practices. Please help me thank our sponsors, Puffin Foundation West and GBQ, and our partners, the Mayor's Green Team, the Environmental Professionals Network, the Ohio Environmental Council, and thank you, all of you, for your support and participation today. And it's my pleasure to introduce Paul Anderson, the Director of Assurance at GBQ, who will introduce the speakers today. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. GBQ is pleased to support the missions of the Columbus Metropolitan Club to engage week after week the people, the ideas, the conversation that is important to the vitality and the forward progress of our community. Today, we have the honor of hosting a premiere of a bold initiative to put Columbus and our entire region on course to address the problems of eliminating climate change and sustainability head on. We like to be number one around here. Go Bucks! And I can't think of a more appropriate challenge for our city to be number one in, for the sake of our children, for our children's children, than to be number one and a leader by setting an example and the standard for how we treat our planet. Please welcome our speakers today. Erin Miller, Environmental Steward for the City of Columbus. Ellen Mosley Thompson, Director of the world-renowned Bird, Polar, and Climate Research Center at OSU. And our host today, Aparna Dial, Sustainability Director for OSU. Let's give them a round of welcome. But first, to open our program, please help me welcome the longest-serving mayor in the history of our city and the undisputed champion of the Green Initiative in Columbus, Mayor Michael Coleman.
Good afternoon, and it's indeed a pleasure to be here today at the Columbus Metropolitan Club again. I've been here a lot over the past 16 years, maybe frankly even longer, 20 plus years, for one thing or another, and you do a great job here, and glad to be here with you. About a decade ago, I was looking at the Big Darby, and it's our only national scenic river. And there was a lot of development pressure to develop around the Big Darby. And we grew concerned. And so we felt that we wanted to do something to protect the environment around that river, around there, around that water. And so the city led an effort with an accord with 8 other jurisdictions to do the right thing to protect that watershed. Now, when we did that a decade ago, I said, you know, there's something to this environmental effort. You know, I rode down the creek, I got in a canoe, I paddled down, I'm an urban guy, and I said, this is pretty cool. We need to protect that river. But it dawned on me there's so much more to do in the area of the environment. I put my toe in the water with the Darby, so to speak, but I decided to jump in all the way, and we did. So that's when we started the Get Green Columbus initiative, appointing an environmental steward, developing an advisory board, the Mayor's Green Team, folks who cared about this and had a lot of expertise in it. In 2005, we put together what we call the Green Memo I, like the Super Bowl I. Green Memo I, 2005. And it was a 5-year plan for the city government. Then in 2010, 5 years later, we put together what's called Green Memo II, Super Bowl II. And we've worked hard at those list of things we felt we had to do in 2005 and then 2010. Things like a comprehensive residential recycling program that is now in place for the first time, diverting some 75,000 tons of material from the landfill, saving $4 million in landfill fees. Reducing greenhouse gases by 23% solely from city operations since 2005. Installing large solar panels on the city's Groves Road facility. Removing 2 major dams on the Scioto and Olentangy rivers to improve the water quality and create a safer course for boaters. Columbus has been deemed, and Kelly Reagan, he's here somewhere, we've been deemed as having the greenest fleet in North America. That's a big deal. Out of all the cities, all the states, all the communities around the country, the vehicles we own, and we own a lot of them, we're the greenest fleet in all of America. We started investing in the bike infrastructure. We want to make Columbus the Bike City USA, working really hard to expand our bike paths, our ability to get around our community by bike. We launched the KOGO bike share effort, and we're allowing operation of car sharing in our city. And so today we're here to announce Green Memo III. This is Green Memo III. It has 178 recommendations, 103 pages of context based upon a comprehensive effort with our citizens all across the city. This is Green Memo III. And we have a vision statement in here. The vision statement is Columbus, a green community, beautiful, healthy, and prosperous. They all come together. Beauty, health, and prosperity, economically and every other way. So in this effort, it's comprehensive. It deals with climate change. It's become at the front of this booklet, and we need to mitigate the effects of climate change. You know, I'm still amazed there are people that don't yet believe in climate change. And the only thing I can say about that is those who do not believe in climate change remind me of the tobacco lobby that said that when you smoke, it won't cause cancer. They deny the science. The science is clear. If we do not address things like climate change, I've learned about this today at lunch. If we don't address climate change, things like the buckeye tree that grows in Ohio won't grow in Ohio. It'll migrate to north, to Michigan. We can't allow that. There's something wrong with that, but a lot more wrong if we don't deal with climate change. This effort deals with energy, transportation, waste reduction, ecological systems, water, local food, the built environment, and community engagement. 178 recommendations in a 5-year plan. 2015, and so in 2020, we'll have to have another. Every 5 years, we've got to do one. So we're already doing some things consistent with this plan. It's in the plan, but already doing some things. We've already started the Blueprint Columbus effort where we will build green infrastructure solutions to solve sanitary sewer overflows in our neighborhoods. The side of greenways on downtown, where we're opening up 33 additional acres of parkland by narrowing the river downtown. Stormwater demonstration park at Audubon Center, more bike lanes and sidewalks, we gotta go there. Expansion of Go Bike Share. The city's first net zero energy building. We're bidding out electricity, energy efficiency, and renewable energy to gain cost savings through bulk procurement. We're establishing a mechanism to finance energy improvements on commercial and industrial buildings as well. And so you can't do anything in city government without the help of a real solid city council. And I have the help, city council, Mighty Michelle Mills is right here. Stand up, Mighty Michelle Mills, city council member. She's the environmental committee chair for City of Columbus, and she does a great job on this area. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Aparna Dial, standing right here. She's the sustainability director for the Ohio State University and chair of my green team, and a great friend, and somebody whom I trust in this area very, very much so. And then she'll be moderating a panel with my environmental steward, Erin Miller. Now, we call Erin Miller the Green Queen. That's her nickname in City Hall. So if you say Green Queen, she will turn around and look for that response. And then Dr. Ellen Mosley Thompson, a climate scientist and director at the Byrd Polar and Climate Research Center at OSU. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your comments.
Good afternoon. It's never possible to follow that, never. But we'll try. So, as one of the largest and most advanced cities in the country, not to mention that we were rated as one of the top 7 most intelligent communities in the world in 2014. How many of you knew that? Great. So we are uniquely positioned as the city to tackle on this issue of climate neutrality on a large scale. And attacking these challenges that are significant and doing them in a very broad and collaborative fashion has always been a priority for Mayor Coleman. And given the charge, and as his chair of his green team, it was my privilege to work over most of the last year with Erin Miller and her team to see community input and help develop the Green Memo III. And the mayor shared some of the wonderful initiatives that are going to take place in the near future, and Erin is going to go into more detail about those, and you'll learn how it's really possible to cut down greenhouse gas emissions on a large scale. Having said that, the mayor also talked about how, though we have a lot to celebrate, there's a long road ahead. And the Green Memo III is really a roadmap to being a green city that is beautiful, healthy, and prosperous. So, being from Ohio State, take notes because there'll be a quiz at the end. Right? You'll have to recite the mission. So now I'm going to put on my other hat as the sustainability director at Ohio State. So the university is very, very committed to climate neutrality. We have a goal to be zero carbon by 2050. And I think it is very essential for universities and colleges to take leadership in this area, not only by cutting down on our own emissions, but by providing knowledge and educating students who are more than well equipped to tackle these issues in the future. And for us, it's really about being competitive in the future through technological advancements and embracing the sort of culture change that's necessary to succeed in this world where we'll have to reduce our carbon emissions. Not to talk about cutting-edge research that goes on there and researchers like Dr. Thompson who've led to provided a significant contribution that has helped us understand these issues that are at stake better. So I'm really, really excited to get this conversation started. So to begin with, can you both, if possible, briefly summarize what you do on a day-to-day basis and what sort of influenced you to dedicate your careers towards the pursuit of science and environmental stewardship.
Okay, I'll go first. Thank you so much, Aparna. And I have to say, Aparna has been the most fabulous chair of the Mayor's Green Team. She's been a joy to work with and is just so bright and intelligent, and we're really lucky to have her as one of our main partners. So I do whatever the mayor tells me to do. So seriously, the mayor has been such a leader in this area, and it has been an absolute honor and privilege to work with him these past 6 years. And I have to publicly thank you for putting me in this position and trusting me with your baby of the Get Green Columbus initiative, and really, really appreciate everything you've done for me and for the city. So thank you so much. So I'm in charge, just what the mayor said. I've been working on the Get Green Columbus initiative here for the past 6 years. We launched the comprehensive recycling program, which was amazing. I have to tell a quick story about that. So when I first started working for the mayor in 2009, I was going out and talking with all the community members about all the great things the city was doing. And I just got beat up because we did not have a recycling program. And so I took the mayor to lunch, because that's what we all have to do. I took him to lunch, and he had said, hey, how's it going? You know, and I said, Mayor, you know, we really need to get over this hurdle of the recycling program, because it's a barrier in people's minds. They can't think we're green unless we have this program. And he made it happen. He worked so hard and getting everyone's approval and making that program happen. And so it's wildly successful. We have 201,000 people participating and recycled 75,000 tons so far. So it's been a great program, and it was a joy to work on with the team. So I work on programs like that, as well as the solar array and some of the other things the mayor talked about, and really trying to manage and coordinate both internally with city staff and city operations, and furthering our commitments to reduce impacts on the environment, but also externally throughout the community, and working together and building collaborations for a better future. So that's what I've been working on. So, and I have to thank Leslie Strader, who's here, and David Celebrezzi, who are also in the Mayor's Office of Environmental Stewardship and worked really hard on this plan. And the Mayor's Green Team is here, and all of our city coordinators assigned to us, our green coordinators, are here as well. So thank you for being here.
Well, my name is Ellen Mosley Thompson, and currently I'm the director of the Bird Polar and Climate Research Center at Ohio State. I started my career at Ohio State as a graduate student, and although I'm not homegrown, which you can probably tell from my accent, I'm just from the next state over, which is West Virginia. And but my husband and I came here as graduate students in 1971. And obviously we never left. So currently, in addition to being the director of the center, I am a university professor. I'm a climate scientist. What I do on a daily basis maybe isn't as exciting as what Erin gets to do. I sit in a chair a lot, and I work at the computer quite a bit. But as a climate scientist, I also have the opportunity to travel to different places such as Antarctica and Greenland and Peru and China, places where we have glaciers on the high mountains or on the big ice sheets. Because what my passion has been is what's called paleoclimatology. And what we do is we drill ice cores on these permanent ice sheets and glaciers, and then we analyze the chemical and physical properties, and it allows us to reconstruct Earth's climate history. So back in the 70s, when I was getting going with this, and it was really an academic exercise. But over time, what we found is that with the opportunity to revisit glaciers, we began to see the changes. And I think one of the most striking pieces of evidence for climate change is what's happening with the Earth's ice cover, and the fact that glaciers around the world are shrinking. And with them, these archives are disappearing. And as you are fully aware, we have an extensive observational system globally that tells us that the Earth's climate is changing. And the beauty of these paleo or older records is that they tell you how the climate used to be, and you can compare that, or you can compare the climate as it is today to how it used to be, and the changes are really striking. And one little message with that is that has shocked us as climate scientists is how rapidly these changes are occurring. So that's, and I think about that probably 16 or 18 hours a day.
So, Dr. Thompson, if the evidence is that clear, is there clear evidence that it's real and it's happening today? And the consensus among the scientific community, is there truly a consensus? I mean, you hear so much disinformation and challenges, and the mayor talked about that a little bit. When
Yes, I was going to say, this is one of the examples that we use in our community, is there is and you should be aware, there is a very well-funded denial industry ongoing, just as there was, supported by R.J. Reynolds during the effort to try to get the public to stop smoking. Yes, the bottom line is that the climate community, the climate science community, is I would say something on the order of, I think the number is 98% of climate scientists agree that undeniably climate is changing. It's quite straightforward. All you have to do is look at the data. There's nothing to believe. It's not a belief system. It's a matter of looking at the evidence and letting that evidence speak. So yes, climate is changing. The scientific community is very united on that. Secondarily, the other issue with global climate change is whether human activity plays a role. And there are numerous reports from such august bodies such as the National Academy of Sciences, the Royal Society in London, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, many more, that since around 1950, or the middle of the 20th century, the climate changes that we have observed are primarily driven by the emission of greenhouse gases that warm the planet. The fact that greenhouse gases warm the planet is not new science. That science has been built over nearly 3 centuries of investigation. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change stated in its recent report, just released in the last 9 months, that with 95% confidence that the bulk of the majority of the climate change we've seen since 1950 is human-driven. And the climate community supports that, the evidence supports that.
So having heard what we just said, can you detail some of the actions that the city has undertaken since, say, 2005, Green Memo I to date, specifically to cut down greenhouse gas emissions?
Yeah, so exactly what Ellen had said, the science is clear, and thankfully the mayor is a believer in science. And so back in 2007, the mayor signed the U.S. Mayor's Climate Protection Agreement, along with about 1,000 other mayors throughout the country. And what that committed the city to is reducing greenhouse gas emissions from city operations. So we've committed to a 40% reduction by the year 2030, which you'll see spelled out in the plan before you. And we have made a lot of progress. So the mayor had mentioned we had a 23% reduction. So that's since our baseline year of 2005. And we've done that largely through our fleet efforts. So introducing compressed natural gas into our fleet with our larger trucks that use a lot of fuel has made a huge impact, as well as reducing the amount our vehicles are idling and wasting fuel. So through the mayor's executive order, through an anti-idling ordinance for our city fleet, as well as through technology to help us monitor how much our vehicles are idling, and just right-sizing our fleet. So we've got, before we had large trucks doing something a small light-duty vehicle could do. So simple changes and simple things that actually save the city money helped reduce our greenhouse gas emissions from just that portion has reduced 60% from our transportation fleet. And then we also have done other things in our buildings to reduce the amount of energy that we're using in our facilities, as well as in our streets. So all of our traffic lights have been converted to LED signals that are more energy efficient. And then we're in the process of converting street lights over to LED technology as well, which is spelled out in the plan to do more of as we move forward in the next 5 years. And then we also have worked on reducing waste and trying to think what else. So we're expecting there to be an even larger reduction in our greenhouse gas emissions from city operations for 2014. We just don't have the data in yet because we also procured green power for the first time, which we're really excited about. So we were able to get renewable energy credits purchased, which helps support the renewable energy industry and specifically the wind and solar industry. So we've got 14% now of the city's power coming from renewable sources, which we're really proud of.
Great. So in addition to the dangers of just denying that it's real, what is the true cost of non-action? I know we're worried about the Buckeye tree migrating north, and we certainly don't want that. But what are some of the other impacts that one could see at a local or global level? And what are some of the efforts that specifically the Bird Polar Climate, now I have to be retrained because it used to not be called that, Bird Polar and Climate Research Center at The Ohio State University is doing in terms of community engagement?
That's right. Well, what I'd like to point out to answer that is that very recently the National Climate Assessment was released. And what we have put out on the table, it's an extensive report, but there are 2 pages that talk about what climate changes might be anticipated for the Midwest. And Ohio is considered in that sector. We also are part of the Great Lakes sector. So one of the types of things that we might anticipate seeing, number one is an increase in precipitation. But an aspect of precipitation is how is it delivered. So, we're an agricultural state. The best way for precipitation to be delivered for agriculture is for it to be delivered in a more evenly distributed over time, rather than the way we tend to be getting it now. And it's anticipated that in the future, this additional precipitation will come in very heavy downpours. So it may rain less, but when it rains, we will get more rain. The problem with that is it increases a runoff. It allows less time for percolation and groundwater recharge. It pounds the ground. That makes it harder for farmers to till. There may be some changes in the seasonal delivery of precipitation. So that's one of the major concerns. And for cities, it's a major concern because many cities now have, and Columbus as well, and I think the mayor alluded to this as well, some of our infrastructure is old. And our sewer systems some of them have the combined runoff sewer. And when we have too much runoff, they merge, and we end up with sewage running into the rivers. So there are those downstream effects from the purely climate-related changes that we'll see. Probably it's anticipated that we will have more days of warmth. In other words, more heat waves. We will have fewer days of killing frost. That's going to impact, for example, killing pests. So it's anticipated that we will have probably more disease, more waterborne diseases, So those are some of the examples. But there are many, and two things I'd like to point out, which I already have. This should be out on the table. I'm not sure that we anticipated such a big audience. The second thing that is out on the table, and this gets to the second part of your question about the Bird Polar Research Center, we have a very vibrant education and outreach program. And just for example, last year our programs had direct interaction with 12,000 people. These would range from elementary school children to elder groups that come, like lifelong learning groups. And we do this through a variety of activities. We have tours of the center, and we offer a public tour at least once a month. You simply go on our website and sign up. We go out to schools and have hands-on activities for the students. We partner with other organizations to have climate events. The next one, we have a program called Climate Explorations. Our next one is, and there's some flyers out there, will be January 28 and 29. We're doing it with the OSU Planetarium. And here it's called Earth's Thermostat, our solar furnace and gas ceiling. And part of the discussion there will be to help the public understand the role of greenhouse gases in terms of global climate change. On the table out there is a one-pager that it just says sources for global climate change information. And so this is for people who would like to know more and want to do essentially the education on your own.
We will be taking questions from the audience shortly, but in the meantime, I'd like to give the speakers the opportunity to maybe wrap up anything that you want the audience to take away with, any objectives that are in the memo that we didn't talk about, and any closing thoughts and comments.
Sure. So, and building off of what Ellen had said, so we are extremely fortunate to have the Bird Polar Climate Research Center here, and we will be relying on Dr. Mosley Thompson and other scientists, as one of the things in the plan is to create a climate science advisory committee and create a climate preparedness plan. The things that Ellen had talked about, we need to be prepared for, because climate change is already occurring. So in addition to some of the mitigative measures we talked about at the beginning of the program, we also need to plan for climate that's actually changing, like the change in the tree species, like the increase in stormwater, and really look at our infrastructure and how it's going to be impacted. So we look forward to working with Dr. Mosley Thompson and her colleagues on helping us craft this. You'll see in the plan that's before you, there's one at each table, but on your way out, there'll be a stack, so you can grab one, and it's online as well. So you can go to columbus.gov/speak-up to download the plan. And you'll see in there's a lot of different objectives speaking to climate change. One is to reduce energy in our homes, and specifically commercial and industrial buildings by 20% by the year 2020. So this is community-wide. So the difference with this plan is really it's community-wide goals, because it's a community-wide problem. We cannot, as a city, solve this problem on our own without the entire community participating. The greenhouse gas emissions from city operations only make up 3% of the total greenhouse gas emissions throughout the community. If we did zero emissions from city operations, we would still not even be scratching the issue. So it has to be a community-wide effort. So we invite you all to participate in that. We have working groups set up. It's going to be a very inclusive process for implementation, and we look forward to working with all of you on making this plan a reality.
Dr. Sam, any closing comments or thoughts?
Let me see. So the one thing, maybe a take-home message, and this is consistent with what Erin was saying, is really the responsibility lies with each of us. And I teach a course on global climate change. And one of the things I tell the students is that the cheapest, fastest way to reduce our emissions is to use the energy that we currently produce more efficiently. We're producing it, the greenhouse gases are emitted in its production, But if we can make that energy do more work, so for example, not just like, for example, with the fleet, but in our homes, you mentioned that. There's a tremendous amount that each of us can do and that companies can do to reduce their energy use. And that's good for the company, it's good for the homeowner, and it's good for the environment. And so in the solutions, to get people to buy in, what you really need are activities that are win-win. And certainly energy efficiency is a winner all the way around.
Absolutely. So at this point, I think we are ready for audience questions. It is CMC's tradition to take questions from the audience. So please step up, state your name, ask your question, and I will thank you in advance if you avoid long editorial comments. Please go ahead.
My name is Susan Emerson. My question is for Erin. First of all, I want to say thank you for getting us the curbside recycling program. That was such a wonderful thing for the community. And my question is, now that it is successful, is there some plan to ratchet it up to the next level? I notice right now we communicate big tub emptied every week for garbage, smaller tub emptied every other week for recyclables. I'd like to see that message reversed.
Yes, that is actually one of the, thank you so much for your question. That's one of the things that we hear from a lot of residents is the desire to have weekly collection of recycling, and that is actually in the plan. It's going to come down to resources and what we're able to afford as a city, so it'll be part of a budgeting process and part of that decision-making process at that time. But our contract with Rumpke is up in 2016, so starting in 2017, we plan on bidding it out with the option of having weekly recycling, so we can look at the pricing differentials and see if we can afford it.
Thanks.
Yep.
Hello, my name is John Rush, and I just had one brief comment. I wanted to say thank you to Erin Miller and to Mayor Coleman for the partnership with Clean Turn and the deconstruction initiative over the past year and a half, where we've had an opportunity to not only reduce waste going to the landfill from houses that are extremely distressed and very challenging neighborhoods, but we've been able to leverage the opportunity to deconstruct the material to create employment for individuals who have challenges in their background. And so as a small token of appreciation, we have a picture that's framed out of wood that came out of one of the homes that was deconstructed with the Clean Turn team. And so again, thank you, Mayor Coleman and Erin Miller, for all of your work in all of the ways you've described and also in the deconstruction initiative. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John McKnight. I work for Rife's Auto Body here in Columbus, so I'm a car guy. And I am a bit of a, I don't know, enthusiast of the alternative fueled cars that are out there. And obviously that can help a lot with the, the greenhouse problem that we're having. Is there anything additional? The city has already done a lot. Is there anything additional that the city plans to do to help encourage fueling stations, high-speed charging stations for electric vehicles and additional fueling stations for compressed natural gas, propane-powered vehicles, and things like that? I think the more of that sort of thing that is out there, the more consumers will be able to, it'll be easier for them to take advantage of that type of vehicle. So,
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much for your question. Yeah, we realize the importance of having the infrastructure available, which is why we've made it a high priority to, when we build a compressed natural gas station, it is open to the public. Because we want to be able to not only help our city operations, but help the entire community in transitioning away from petroleum fuels and into cleaner burning fuels. So in addition to the compressed natural gas stations that are open, which we have one open on the east side, one on the north side, and we're in the design phase for our third station on the west side. In addition, there's other stations throughout the community that are open to the public. But we also have invested in public charging stations for electric vehicles. And so now there are over 30 charging stations throughout the community that the public can use. And that really is important because it gets rid of that range anxiety a lot of electric cars can only go a certain amount of mileage, and so you need that kind of charge in the middle of the day. And so in the plan, we specify the need for more infrastructure improvements. And again, it comes down to funding, but we're hoping with community partners, it's not just the city who's putting funding into these things, but also private foundations as well as the private business community as well.
To piggyback on what Erin said, at the university, you have preferred parking for low-emission, fuel-efficient vehicles, and then we have electric vehicle charging stations that are clearly marked that are for use for the public at Ohio State as well, so as a community partner.
Hello, I'm Wolf. I'm with the Small Business Beanstalk. We represent about 500 independent businesses around town. First off, I want to say thank you for the Green Spot and then also the High Street Recycling Program. Those two initiatives have really motivated a lot of our businesses to go a lot more green. And also to the university for the Green Buckeye program and everything that you're doing in that. It's huge. I'm wondering if there's an initiative being planned for this year to take that small business energy savings to the next level, and if that's released in this plan or if that's going to be coming later.
So the Green Spot program, which David Celebrezzi is here, I encourage you to talk to him afterwards, but we've been working to develop a small business outreach program to really help small businesses in reducing their energy usage, reducing waste usage, helping their employees travel in a more sustainable way to work, and their patrons. So the Green Spot program is kind of our rallying for education and outreach, and we'll continue to expand that program. We hope to have 20,000 members in that program by 2020, which is a goal that's in this plan. And there's some specific strategies in here as well that you can look at, and we'd love to have your help in implementing this plan as well.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Linda Paul. I'm with Earthshare Ohio, and I was wondering if the city has any thought of doing curbside composting.
So one of the challenges that we have in Columbus with providing composting at the curb and collection is that we don't have a licensed composting facility in Franklin County that can accept it. So we have an infrastructure gap. So one of the items in the plan is actually calling for a collaborative effort to have a composting facility that's licensed to accept food scraps here in Franklin County. So that way we can build that infrastructure base and then explore those opportunities.
Jane Scott, Metropolitan Club. Two very, very quick questions. Is there any initiative to have citizens in the city plant more trees to help absorb? So from a more of a positive, not just a, we don't want to do this, is there something that would encourage planting? And the second question is, a couple years ago, we built a small garage and we wanted to do a permeable driveway, and we were told that that was not part of the zoning of the city of Columbus, and that the zoning laws had not quite caught up with some of the green initiatives. If that hasn't happened yet, it might be something I'd like to know what the progress is on that, and if there are other zoning and infrastructure relative to construction, whether it's private or commercial, that could help with some runoff and perhaps be a bit more green.
Thank you. Yeah, so you brought up two really good points, the trees. So in the plan, there's a huge section just about trees and creating a tree ambassador program and creating a private-public partnership for tree growth. The mayor had mentioned, the migration of trees and that being an issue. We're also losing more trees than we're planting right now due to emerald ash borer, which is a really big problem. And trees are kind of our number one tool that we can use to combat climate change. They soak up carbon dioxide and give us oxygen, and they also provide shade to us as well. So trees are really good, and they also help soak up stormwater. So it's kind of a win-win-win-win-win with trees. So trees are a big focus in the plan, and you'll see that whole section addressing that. And then with regard to the problems that you had with the zoning, I'd love to hear more about that. We've tried to make sure that our codes are very allowable for green. With the mayor's commitment to green, we don't want to see any impediments in our codes. So I definitely want to hear about that, and we'll follow up on that for sure.
Hi, I'm Christine Dye with Jenny's Ice Creams. Is there a hierarchy to the goals that you've set forth in your plan? Anything that will be taking precedence over others we have a particular interest in the compost and waste situation, and to follow up on that, is there a way that you can become involved in some of these working groups that you mentioned?
Yeah, so it's a really good question because there's 178 actions, as the mayor said, in this plan, and so it's a little overwhelming to try to think of doing them all at once. So actually, the February Green Team meeting, they're going to help us prioritize the actions, and we actually have the OSU capstone students with the EADS sustainability program are going to help us do a cost-benefit analysis on the actions and really try to prioritize which actions we should tackle first to get the most bang for the buck. So we'll be working on that the next 2 months. But we're going to set up 9 different working groups based on the 9 sections of the plan, and we're inviting everyone and anyone to come and participate on that to help us kind of shape these further and implement into the future. So we'd love to have your participation.
Good afternoon. My name is Kirsten Carr. I'm the Director of Planning and Environment at the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. And I first want to take a moment and compliment the mayor and Erin, her entire staff, and the entire Green team for putting together this really impressive Green Memo. My staff, we've all read it, and it's just a very comprehensive document, and we're so proud of you being a leader in our Central Ohio region when it comes to sustainability efforts. Erin was also really instrumental when she worked at MORPC to create the Central Ohio Green Waste Program, which works on green trail development, water quality issues. And so my question to you was, do you have any updates on this Scioto Mile project?
On the Scioto Greenways project? So that should be complete this year. The Columbus Downtown Development Corporation and the city have been working really hard on that. You can see the transformation happening right now. With the cold weather, I don't know if that's going to delay it or not, but it should be complete this year, and you'll start to see that really beautify the whole downtown next year.
Hi there. I'm Jonathan Dworin from SSTI, the State Science and Technology Institute. Looking around the room, I'm noticing that I'm on the younger side of the attendees today, which I think is a good thing. And I'm also a recent transplant to Columbus, and so hopefully my observations still hold true. One thing that I've noticed quite a bit since moving to Columbus 6 months ago, and this is hopefully something that you all have noticed as well, is that the land use in this city doesn't always encourage the most environmentally friendly decisions. And from my perspective, at least, the land use and, in addition to that, the mindset that that type of land use reinforces, the single-family home in the suburbs, the long commute into the city for work, all of those activities, to me, that seems more than all of these other initiatives. That seems to be the number one thing getting in the way of all of the progress towards becoming a truly environmentally friendly city. And all of the health and prosperity that would go along with that as well. So I would just hoping that you guys could talk on that in 2 ways. One, talking about kind of land use and the role that that does play in our city's environmental footprint, and then also kind of the impact that land use has on the ways in which we are thinking about the environment, and then how, whether it's through that handbook or whether it needs to be through something far larger than that, how we can hope to address those two things as they seem to be getting in the way of the progress that we're seeking.
Well, I can't really address the details of the plan in that regard, but I did see in the plan that there is an initiative to try to bring more people to living in the central part of the city. And I think that's what you're really talking about. And, but this is a long-term problem because the post-World War II, it was a single-family house, a 2-car garage, and, a half an acre of land. That was the American dream. And now, with so many people, living in the urban area, what we would call an urban area. I mean, the statistics, you think about it, in the U.S. and Ohio mimics the U.S., about 80% of the people live in what are called urban areas, and 45% of the people in the United States live in cities of 1 million or more. And that's growing all the time. And what you've brought up is a very serious issue. And that type of situation is not sustainable for the long term. And the more sustainable approach will be, the livable, walkable city, making it a place where people want to be, where, you know, housing is dense, and there are a lot of economies of scale that can be taken advantage of when you have that type of situation. You know, I personally, just from the reading that I do, see the urban sprawl as something that we have now, but it will not be desirable for the future. And I think people will realize that. And more people do want to come back to the city center and not spend 30 minutes in their car. And maybe you can address a little more about what the plan might have in mind.
Yeah, I mean, addressing that is important, but like Dr. Mosley Thompson said, we're not going to be able to address that issue overnight, but there'll be things in the next 5 years in this plan that we're focused on in increasing density in the urban core, making communities more walkable so that you don't have to drive. About a third of the community's greenhouse gas emissions are due to transportation. So it is a very big issue that we need to tackle. And the mayor has been just an advocate for urban density and focusing our growth in the urban core. So we'll continue to do that, and you can see in the plan there's a whole section on the built environment.
So to talk about the university recognizes the importance. So we have principles about pedestrianizing the core that we are implementing, and we have something we call no net new academic space. So we are just not building any new buildings. We either repurpose or demolish and build in space. So there's no sprawl on campus. But unfortunately, I have the role of saying that we have just room for one more question.
And I apologize because it's more of a comment than a question,
Great.
so please forgive me. And at first I was sitting there trying to see if I was on the younger part of the room or the I don't know about many of you, but I was thinking that. But secondly, I wanted to say, as one other side of the room, is that I wanted to always commend both the mayor and Erin and all their work in environment. And I cannot say enough about that. But as the environmental chair on behalf of Columbus City Council, I want to let our most recent speaker understand that we try to bring synergies when it comes to land use. As we launch food plans, as we talk about economic development, you'll hear many of the folks like Kenny McDonald talk about what type of housing and trending in housing and all that, and how that impacts every part of what we do in the city, not just from land use, but also economic development, also from food and sustainability of our community members. All of that, we try to bring those synergies together, so one is not solving one thing without addressing the rest. So any changes we make when we talk about development and economic development, from a housing stock and all of that, we think about the trends and what that impact will be environmentally and from a sustainability standpoint, so we don't look at silos in trying to address one issue and not looking at them across the board. And Erin and her team is always at the table when we're talking about some of these solutions and knowing what that impact would be. As you heard from Clean Term, we talk about demolition, and when that ramps up, what does that look like? How does that impact the rest? So all of that is taken into account. We don't address those things in silos. So I was sitting there like, oh, I got to talk. So I apologize for commenting versus a question. Thank you.
No apologies. Thank you.
What a rare treat for us to hear from these esteemed, eloquent scientists. Thank you very much. It was fabulous. We hope you enjoyed today's forum. We're going to continue the conversation with coffee and cookies out in the lobby. Remember, you can view and share any of our forums on CTV Columbus Television, on WOSU and PBS affiliates statewide, on the Ohio channel, and anytime on CMC's website, columbusmetroclub.org. Once more, thanks to our sponsors, GBQ and the Puffin Foundation West. Thanks so much. The Mayor's Green Team, the Environmental Professionals Network, and the Ohio Environmental Council, and our Green Queens. Thank you so much. And if you hustle, you have about 30 minutes to get down to the shot to say goodbye to the team. Go Bucks.